Hey YouTube, RicoKnows here. Going to talk to you guys about Kentucky's defense. If you are aware, I'm currently evaluating all the defenses in America, and as I do my evaluations, sometimes I'll come across something and it'll surprise me, and I'll make a video for the MVPs on Patreon or the members on YouTube, or I'll write something on Twitter, and I'll just keep it moving because I got 134 teams to look at, and I'm about 70 teams in. So I've completed about 70 teams, doing assessments on all the players on the team. I look at every single position group. I look at every single whole unit, if not. And when I was done with my assessment on Kentucky, I was shocked. According to my ratings and according to how I do things, I have Kentucky at 117.5 points, or the second best defense. Not all the teams are done. Some of the key teams are done. Some of the superstar teams are done. But you see where I have Kentucky right behind Ohio State, right ahead of Georgia, right ahead of Michigan, right ahead of Texas, Oklahoma, Florida State, and Notre Dame. And I put it on Twitter, and I got responses back. Like, some people are saying, hey, this is a troll. Rico doesn't know what he's talking about. What is the metric? I got so many questions about it. So what do you mean? I checked these rankings and they were 40th in the country. And it's like, yeah, man, if you're talking about last year, then so be it. I think last year I warned all Kentucky fans that they were going to win 7 games and they were going to be kind of an average team in the SEC. I did not see an elite team. I did not believe in Devin Leary the way the transfer portal talked about it in all the rankings. And I talked about this in countless videos on TikTok. But what people don't understand is, like, if I've always kept it real about your team and I've always given you a proper assessment of that team, then when I say something like this, you have the nerve to then accuse me of engagement farming, trying to do, rage baiting, all kinds of shit. And it's like, no, man, I take pride in being accurate. I want to be accurate. And when I look at Kentucky as a whole, they look exceptional on defense. Now, does that mean they're going to win 10 games in the SEC? Not at all. Not even a little bit. Okay, what this means is they have really good players on the defensive side of the ball. What I take into account after that is coaching, scheme, matchups. And I do that weekly. It's not something I would do in a broad stroke from the preseason, but if I had to, which I do in my futures bets videos, which I've already created for the MVPs. Like, if you go to Patreon and you go to RicoKnows and you search Kentucky, the video's already made. And I don't have to go back and remake the video because my assessment is the same. This just solidifies it a little more, right? So my assessment initially of Kentucky was they're going to win 7 or more games. That's significant because the sportsbook have them at 6.5. So I'm on the over. That is something I would sell to people. That is something that people would bet on and make a ton of money with. But when I look at them individually in their position groups, if you will, Kentucky's elite. They're one of the very best. So the guy said, what's the criteria? The criteria is assessing talent. Well, what makes them better this year than last year? Graduation, development, a year of lifting weights, getting bigger, stronger, and faster, the transfer portal. So I'll try to break it down without going too in-depth because I try to save that for the MVPs. There is a reason they pay me for what I do. Shout out to all my members. If you didn't know, MVP is for my members. But when you look at this defense right here, we're going to go to our lads. Our lads isn't always accurate, but it's accurate enough to talk about it, okay? Rebecca and Weaver, we're going to talk about the defensive ends, the rusher, the guys who get the pass rush going. Complete studs. I want to remind you 2 years ago that if I go up here and we look at, let's go look at Florida State. Let's go look at Florida State's pass rushing. And you look at Tommy Wadurage here. Tommy Wadurage is going to get in the 2 deep at some point at Florida State. Tommy Wadurage is 3rd string at Florida State. Yeah, he couldn't see the field at Kentucky, and he had to transfer to West Virginia. When you look at Kentucky's talent on the defensive line, they have players that are so very good, talent-wise. Like, you just look at them and you go do the assessment on the tape. This Brian Robinson kid, he's a 5-star. He's an amazing talent. I don't know if he's going to get in the rotation. I don't know where, but to see someone of this talent, 3rd string, should tell you how good your defensive line is and how much depth you have. Like, a player like that starting at some of these other Power 5 schools, starting at some of these other Group of 5 schools. So the depth is here immensely. And then we start talking about the best defensive tackle pairing, I guess, I guess they're going to tell you Michigan's got a better defensive tackle pairing. Maybe Notre Dame. But for me, South Carolina and Kentucky defensive tackles, very comparable. We're talking about Keyshawn Silver, former 5-star, transferred in from North Carolina. Once again, North Carolina had amazing defensive linemen, and you got this kid to come in, and it's now his turn to be in the starting lineup. And Walker is, for me, Walker's the best defensive lineman in college football. That's what I see on tape. I go to the linebackers. Jackson is an absolute superstar. Jackson is a monster, bro. Derek Jackson on tape is completely great. It's just great. And then you bring in a guy like JDJ, Jamin Dumas-Johnson, from Georgia. It's a 2-year starter at Georgia. Are you kidding me? You're a 2-year starter at Georgia at the will linebacker spot. That means I know you're a better linebacker than anybody at Georgia. I don't care what you guys say. I don't care how you guys evaluate it. I go turn on the tape and I see this man and I just go, yikes, that's a beast of a player. And you're replacing an NFL caliber person. Like for me, the way Kentucky, the way they have their players, the depth of these players, the quality of them, it just can't be ignored. Waller pops on tape. I know you guys are going to hate. Waller pops on tape at corner. Afari, all the safeties are legit. Zion Childress, and I know you'll be like, well, Rico, we were getting beat in coverage and we were running prevent and soft zones and all this other shit. Listen, guys, scheme, all of that is very important. That is not a part of the metric. I apply the rating to the scheme. Once again, I assess the talent of the players and then apply that to the coaching. A prime example would be Chris Kleiman. I don't know what Chris Kleiman's team rates right now. I haven't looked at it, but he's an amazing coach at K-State. So he can do better with an 88 score versus Jimbo Fisher when he gets an 88. He just does less with more. Sonny Cumbie at La Tech does less with more. There are so many coaches out there who don't quite get it done. And now I look at these coaches, and I don't do it by position group. I do it by offense and defensive coordinator when I assess the scores to what they are. But what I was trying to tell you guys in the tweet, and what I'm trying to say here is talent-wise, right? Kentucky has all the parts to be great. Now, does that mean I think they're winning 10 games? No. Not at all. But what it does mean is, for gambling purposes, if you think the opposition that's playing Kentucky is going to score an absorbent amount of points, I would lean towards the under from time to time. I would look towards certain matchups and it being more advantageous for Kentucky to win that matchup. Now, another thing is how fresh is this defense going to be? How effective is your offense? Are we just getting 3 and outs, or can Brock Vanderbilt, can we go out there and dominate and get first downs that lead to touchdowns? Are you going to have that put together? I don't think you have the same running attack as last year, and there's a whole combination of things. This was not me predicting Kentucky's going to be an elite SEC team. This was me telling you that the players at Kentucky are good in their position groups. I love this defense. I saw a guy in the comments, he's like, oh, fat chance their defense is better than Georgia. Yeah, no shit, bro. Georgia has an amazing coach. Georgia has amazing coaching pedigree that would take that 115 and make it better than anybody else's 115. Okay? You're not understanding the application of the metrics. You're not understanding what I'm assessing. I'm assessing talent on teams. It's what I do. It's what I do for a living. It's not a hobby. It's what I do for a living. So I tend to think I'm right. MVPs know I'm right. And that's why I have my platform. That's why I have the people who believe in me. But all you Twitter trolls, everybody in these comments down here, writing a bunch of nonsense, like I'll believe it when I see it. Bro, I have them on 7 wins. What do you have to see to believe? What more do you have to see? Damn, bro, I'm a Kentucky homer. I don't care about that. Being a Kentucky homer does not mean anything to me. It just means you're not impartial. But that looks wild. He said, that looks wild. A homer would be wildly inaccurate about his assessments or his predictions. I'm not a homer. What does that matter to me? I don't like when fans do that. Well, I'm an Alabama guy, and even I know Auburn. Dude, are you trying to imply that all Alabama guys are dumb? Are you trying to imply that all Kentucky homers don't know what they're doing? I don't like that. Appreciate the love, right? And then he says, Kentucky, but our defense is hyped up almost every year. Not saying they're not good, but I wouldn't put them up there with the big dogs. Once again, the players are great. The players are great. Period. I don't know anything about the big dogs talk or any of that shit. I don't take that into consideration when I'm doing my evaluation. I'm like, oh, well, this kid looks good, but, he plays at Kentucky, so he sucks. I don't do that. I look at people and I compare them. And let me give you the premise. The premise is if we had tryouts tomorrow and we said, let's go out there and see who's better, take the jerseys off, these players are better than these players. That's the premise. Like if we had tryouts tomorrow, could you start at Kentucky? And I'm telling you, there's not a lot of people that could. No, there isn't. So Clemson, whose offense is horrific, scored 38 points on one of the best defenses in the nation. You see this right here? This guy, Matt? This is somebody who doesn't know football. Because nowhere Clemson's never scored a point on Kentucky. Because I'm talking about Kentucky in 2024. He's talking about some shit in 2023. That doesn't matter to me. This historical information means nothing to me. I'm not sitting here trying to study historics. I'm not talking about trend analysis. I'm not talking about, oh, well, last year they were ranked. I don't give a shit, bro. Don't care. Once again, Clemson hasn't scored on them. Oh, by the way, I did tell you Kentucky would get scored on in 2023. I did tell you they weren't all that good in 2023. I was right. So if I was right then, why am I not right now? No Iowa, this guy says. Have you seen Iowa? Iowa's starting freshman at corner. Freshman's at corner. That's crazy talk. Did you post a video on it? That's the video we're working on now. Who the hell is Rico? Hey, Gerard Zinser just loves being uninformed. There's somebody who doesn't have a fucking clue what they're talking about. Dude said, who the hell is Rico? How many teams do you have left? I got more left. This guy quoted something called FEI rankings. The Wolverines, bro. The Wolverines, this guy, apparently, he's very, he's impartial. He said they're ranked 41. I probably put them at 41 last year. Those FEI rankings are probably as accurate as I was last year. That's all I'm saying. This guy says, you don't know shit. I do know you, Wolverines. Don't say that. I do know you. Troll alert. Jason thinks I'm trolling. Jason doesn't do this for a living. Jason doesn't, and he doesn't detect trolls for a living either. You can't trick me. Love the optimism with crying faces. This is not being optimistic. Wow, bro, you didn't like Kentucky last year, so what's the difference? It's a new year. It's a new year. What about Penn State? What about them? What's the criteria? Assessing talent. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to Twitter, bro. It's filled with trolls. We all know they're going to give 45 points to the Vols. The day Josh Heupel has this skinny of arms is a cold day in hell. Josh Heupel's an obese man, bro. Are you being serious? Come on, are you being serious? That's what these people are in denial, bro. Great talent at Kentucky. It's right there. There's nothing else to say, bro. Go watch the tape. Go watch the tape on these players and tell me they're not any good. That's what go watch the tape on these players and tell me they're not any good. I promise you. I promise you. There's no way you can get to that conclusion. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Shout out to Kentucky.